Nice. I just popped up on YouTube. All right. Hello, everybody. We are live here. Well, I'm in Maryland. I'm not sure everybody else is, but probably not in Maryland. I hope you guys all are watching this. You should have watched the All-Stars premiere by now. And, that's myself. And hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it was jam-packed, a lot going on. But I thought it was a really fun episode, for me at least. Hopefully the people here feel the same way. We got a really fun panel of guests that we're going to talk to tonight. People just like you who are watching the show and watching it tonight and excited about it. And I'm really excited to have them all. So we'll start off. Let me just have them introduce themselves. And they can tell you, their Twitter handle or whatever they want to. So let's start off with, since you're on my right, Jordan, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Jordan Griffin. I'm from Texas, y'all. What's up? My Twitter handle is at JR_GRIF Griff. You probably don't want to follow me because I'm pretty obnoxious about tweeting. So
yeah, Jordan is a prolific tweeter. I will say that. Gotta give him credit there. We have the great Survivor Maryland. Jacob, how are you doing? Oh, sorry, it's not Survivor Maryland. That's me. Close. Survivor Boston.
Yeah, you're a little close there. I actually am planning on impeaching everyone from Survivor Maryland and just taking over their spot at one point. But what's up, guys? My name's Jacob. I'm one of the two co-hosts from Survivor Boston. Y'all can follow us Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Really pumped to get this started. I'm so excited to talk about this premiere. I have so many thoughts. I'm pumped, guys.
Yeah, and you guys are premiering on what, like May 3rd?
May 3rd, yeah, season 2. It's overwhelming. Like, I think you can protest to the amount of work it is to edit all of this stuff, all the footage that gets sent into you, you have to cover so much. It's incredibly hard. With so much respect for you, especially for doing this for your 5th time.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you're getting out so fast, considering this took me almost 3 years. But I'm not even that's another rabbit hole we can go down. So whatever. We've got Jack here, who is the creator, maintainer, steward, I don't know what the best word is, of the Survivor Maryland wiki that you all know and love. So Jack, it's great to talk to you. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, I guess. So I'm Jack. I pretty much moderate the Survivor Maryland wiki. Pretty much everything there I've done. So if you want to help out, yeah, it's updated through episode 1. I just finished. If anyone else wants to help out, just reach out to me. It'll save me a lot of work. But I'm just your average Survivor Maryland superfan. Nothing really else.
Just your average, yeah. Jack is, if there was a contest, he might have won the award for best fan. So I gotta just be honest with that to everybody. I know I don't want to make anyone else feel bad, but Jack has been there since day one. I'm sorry, Danny. All right, then we got Curtis Morrison. Curtis, I've heard of you.
Yeah, hey.
On the podcast, but how you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me on today.
Day one.
I think the number one thing I've just call myself is the same thing Jack is, like the average Survivor Maryland super fan. I'd shell my Twitter, but nobody wants to hear me ramble about politics and hockey, which is 90% of my Twitter, so I won't even do that. But besides that, I run my own game once a year. A lot of the challenges and stuff, I know we've talked about it before, are modeled after your challenges and some of the twists that you've done. So that's kind of how we got to talking. But I'm just like Jacob said, I'm excited to talk about the premiere.
Yeah, I like listening to your politics and hockey. What was there, a Ukrainian hockey match at 5:30 a.m. today or something?
Yeah, Ukraine was taking on Estonia, and Estonia upset them 2-0. And I was up at 5:30 a.m. to watch that. So yeah, that's a lot of my Twitter feed. So I won't even plug it.
Yes, I can't say I saw it, but I heard about it. Through you. All right, and then we got Cameron, who I hadn't talked to you before the last couple of weeks, but you reached out to me. So Cameron, tell us how you're doing. How about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Cam Pratt. You can follow me on Twitter. I tweet kind of often. I think it's kind of fun. Cam Pratt 14 is the handle. I don't update any wikis and don't host any of my own Survivor games, but I love the show and love Survivor Maryland, so I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, it's not a requirement to do any hosting or whatever. You can just be.
Yeah, I mean, I did when I was friends in my backyard, but that's about the extent of it.
Hey, that still counts.
Yeah.
So we got 41 viewers here now, so people are tuning in. Yeah, go ahead. So thanks everyone for joining us live tonight. We have a lot to talk about, I think, with the premiere. I'm sorry, I have visitors leaving. So we had the round table, if you guys saw it last week, people predicting the episode. some of them made it look totally wrong. I think what was the first boot tonight may have been one of Survivor's greatest players, winners, whatever, making quite a bad first pick. So we have that to talk about. But I think you guys represent, last time was the Survivor Maryland casuals predicting. This is the Survivor Maryland super fans reacting. So I'm really excited to have you guys on. If you guys have questions or anything in the comment sections for me, obviously I can't talk about outcomes of the season, but I can talk about things that happened tonight, try to clarify things for you. But hopefully this excellent panel will help you guys with that. So without further ado, any announcements really? Will be out next week, next Monday, so everything's good there. And obviously, like the video, comment on the episode with all your thoughts. And yeah, I don't know how much bonus content I'll be putting out this week because I'll be in Boston for the live know-it-alls. But if anybody else is there in this group, then I'll see you guys.
There, dude. Woo!
Yeah, so I'll be there. So I don't know what I'll be able to post, but I have some stuff. So maybe next weekend before the episode, I'll post something. But anyway, let's get into the premiere. Let's talk about all of it. So we'll try to keep things segmented so you guys don't have to feel like you're talking over each other. But let's just start off with general thoughts. Your big takeaways and reactions. And we'll start off since we went to Cam last. Let's start off with you.
Yeah, I mean, it was action-packed like you said it would be. A lot of exciting stuff going on, like right from the get-go. I think I've watched that first 8 minutes many, many times by now, but I was still, hooked from that. And from then on, it didn't really stop. I think the action kept going. One of the biggest things I noticed was just a lot of people trying to change perceptions of stuff that happened last time, trying new strategies and stuff like that. And we've already had some people fail with that, kind of be doing the same things. And some people that seem to be, doing pretty well socially and fitting in maybe when they didn't last time. So I think it'll only carry on from here. I'm sad that we lose Alex right away because I think he was obviously a lot of fun, one of the bigger characters in the entire series. So interested to see where it goes from here, but I'm not too down just because we lost a big player. I think we still have a lot of exciting stuff to come, hopefully.
Yeah, I think we can definitely get into people who have. I think one of the storylines of the season, even though it's all stars, it is really a second chances and people trying to change their game, change their perception, especially people who have already seen their season. So,
You're lagging out.
That's how about you? What was your big takeaways? Talk. I will figure this out.
I think you're having a little bit of leg issues right now, Austin. Just kind of bouncing around like a little bit.
I'm back now, I think.
Yeah, we can get you now. It was for a second there. It was really robotic.
Yeah.
But who were you going to there?
I was going to you next, Curtis. So.
Perfect. Okay, great. The two main takeaways I got. The two main takeaways I got was, one, I did not expect to spend 40 minutes on that first day, that very first start. I thought, and not that that's a negative, I thought that was super cool to get. I expected seeing the first 8 minutes. Okay, we're going to be here. We're going to do the challenge. We're going to be done in 15 minutes. But we hadn't got any preview regarding these the hidden tiger and the hidden tooth or anything like that. I thought it was really cool that we basically spent half the episode in that very beginning stage, really setting the scene, having the players strategizing right away. And then the second thing is Chris LeComte just comes out blazing every damn time he's on the screen. He must have been on the screen for 40 minutes of the 80-minute episode, and justifiably, because the guy can't slow down. And I think we'll probably have a lot more to say about him as we get through the podcast.
Yeah, definitely a notable personality, and someone who was a big storyline of the first part or the first episode. I just to talk about that decision a little bit. I mean, I kind of felt like you go back to the camp, you see some scenes with them, and once the challenge happens, you don't get too much of that in Survivor Maryland. So I really wanted to use as much of that first day as possible to get people together, interacting, and introducing themselves into the game. And I think we got to see almost everybody have their own kind of little moment.
Yeah,
All right, Jack.
Oh yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I know.
No,
I just
you
wanted,
go.
like even the moment where like there's suddenly all this random paranoia around like a couple girls going to the washroom together. Like yeah, obviously it was 7 of them, but it seemed like it was split into a group of 4 going and a group of 3 going. But then you get these 3 girls, Holly, Victoria, and I'm totally blanking on who the last one, Sierra.
It was Sierra.
Yeah, getting basically left out, and suddenly they're totally suspicious and bonding together, even though we've seen Holly and Victoria be set up as this rivalry. Suddenly they're put in this position where they have to bond. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it just shows, those little moments, especially, girls going to the bathroom. We see it throughout high school and everything, but always drama. And I have a little more insight into that. There wasn't any footage from those bathroom scenes, but it sounds like there were like different factions there, and people were like throwing out names, and I think I might have a secret thing too about that. Hopefully I'm not robotic again. I'm seeing some blank faces. All right, Jack, let's go to you next.
All right. Well, first of all, like it was so jam-packed. When you like announced the like runtime, I was like a little suspicious. I was like, there's gonna be some filler and there's gonna be like some content that's really not worthy of being in here. But like it was literally like all relevant. You were setting up so many different storylines that are gonna happen throughout the season, and I'm literally so pumped. Like with the Paris twist, with like the girls tribe, the bubble tea fight, like all like all the guys like happening, Chris LeCompte's antics. Like the first Chris LeCompte confessional, he was like, "Oh, I really wanted to play under the radar," and I'm like, "No, you didn't, Chris LeCompte."
Who are you playing?
Yeah, you're never gonna be under the radar. It's not a possibility. So it was really interesting seeing all these storylines being set up and how it's gonna like continue on into the upcoming episodes.
Yeah, I I think definitely. I definitely was worried a bit about putting out such a long episode, and I hope that everybody had faith in me. We waited for so long, why shortchange it? But I mean, both in this episode and later on, like everything that is in that premiere matters. I will, I'm not going to say why, but obviously, like it's really all in there for a reason. Right. So good takeaways there. All right, Jacob, what about you?
I mean, there is so much in this episode. Like, serious props to you for being able to cover everything that you did cover. I know we're going to get into like a lot of the specifics later, like a little bit later into what we're doing. But I love the current arcs that are being set up. Like College Survivor has so many different moving pieces than compared to a regular Survivor on an island, where you are seeing these people like 24/7, and the game basically never stops. It's something that, Austin, you say a lot about having the whole like one world twist on a campus. So I loved seeing in this first episode everyone really step up the social games to try to match a kind of, we're technically playing 24/7 while balancing college, while balancing our extracurriculars, FSL life, all these other layers being thrown in. Like you see Jordan like straight from the beginning, just like going up to almost every single guy being like, hey, I found the little claw, like we should work together, which I think is smart for him, being the only one from his season. I think he played his cards, at least at this point, beautifully. Just trying to build trust with every single one of these members, making sure that they really were close with him. And then there are like all these little moments in the premiere that I just really loved. Like for when Siona was like, "There's no Evan." Yeah, I don't know him either. Don't worry. There are all these fun little moments that grow throughout this episode that honestly reminds me of like the actual show, just these small, amazing little character moments. Like I think it was when Jordan and Evan shook hands, they're talking about how warm each other's hands are, the firm handshake. Like these small moments is honestly what makes Survivor Maryland as good as it is and why it's so popular.
Well, thank you, Jacob. Let's go to Jordan. Or what'd you take away?
Well, first off, I want to eat some crow because I've been telling everyone that I can that Chris LeCompte was fucked and he's the first boot no matter what. He survived. I was wrong. So congrats.
He's probably the second boot at this rate, though.
We'll get more into that later. But yeah, this episode was amazing. There were so many little moments that I loved. You already mentioned Siona. I loved it when Senti, when she saw that Ryan was her partner, she broke out in this like evil, maniacal laugh. That was freaking hilarious.
Yeah, I definitely, I think you could see me laughing there too. I was like, good Lord, that's just too funny. Yeah, okay, so those are really a lot of really good takeaways and a lot of my favorite moments from the premiere. So I'm glad you guys are watching it how I intended, I guess. But no, so a lot of good things to talk about, and I think we can cover all of those at some point. I have some general topics brought up, but if you guys want to, take the discussion any way you want to go and make it free flowing, feel free to do that at any time. I thought maybe the best way to do would be to start just by each tribe, since there was so much going on. Let's start with the tribes, then we can talk about things like the partner twist after that. So, let's start with the lead from the episode. Guy's tribe loses the closest challenge in history. I don't really think it could be possibly to be that closer. And they have to go to tribal. Eventually, after a series of things moving around, Alex Pascal, a legend, one of our favorite for a lot of people, ends up going home, which is sad. But talk about the Guy's tribe, the vote, and the dynamics you guys see there. Anybody want to start off with that?
Yeah, I don't mind jumping in. Yeah, I know. Then we can hit Jordan. But I think the number one thing that stuck out to me is that there was really 3 potential boots on the Guy's tribe that we were shown in this episode. And you've said in the past you tend to try to edit to maybe not display a winner as much as to display what actually happened. So I trust that there was a discussion about Brandon and a discussion about Ryan Crowder, and then eventually falling on Pascal with the basically unanimous vote. The thing that made it so funny, and I hate to keep going back to him because I'm sure we will the whole podcast, is that Chris LeCompte basically made all 3 of those choices. Evan comes to him and is like, Brandon. And he's like, yeah, okay, I guess. And then 10 minutes later, he's like, no, Crowder. And then he goes and talks to Crowder. He's like, no, never mind, Pascal. It's like he's the only dude setting the thing. And Evan made a really good point about it. And I think this is a conflict that's going to be really cool to watch going on. Chris LeCompte railroads everybody and is not going to take a no for an answer until you say yes to it. And early on in the game, that's going to work because no one wants to be that guy who stands up to Chris LeCompte. It's exactly how Evan put it. But as the game goes on, we're going to get some cool stuff between, I think, Evan and LeCompte, who are clearly friends and clearly close, but Evan already seems fed up with his shit.
Yeah. And Jordan, before we go to you, I will say that, the way the vote kind of went, Brandon to Ryan to Alex is really definitely how it happened. I mean, there were a million conversations in between. Even that Evan and LeCompte thing that you see right before the vote, that was like an hour and a half conversation. Like, it was so long. And then I think after that, Shul came over and talked to them. And then that was actually like even a night before the vote, just to, pull down the curtain a little bit. But there was just so much going on. But yeah, I try to tell it pretty accurate to what's happening. And that's pretty much the whole picture. So yeah, Jordan, what were you going to say about it? I'm going to go fix it.
Yeah, I think what he said was that them not wanting to stick themselves out and make themselves like a target against Chris LeCompte really was the story of the episode here. Nobody really wanted to take charge and was willing to let him take charge and make decisions for everyone. So my question is, I know they're playing it safe, but I feel like that's a dangerous game with a player like Chris LeCompte, because as we saw this episode, he targeted 3 different people in the span of what we saw, about 20 minutes. And Evan wisely saw that could happen to him, but he still did nothing to change that. He decided to fall in line. And I'm concerned that could come back to bite him, because it seems like to me, LeCompte has some pretty good, I don't want to say pregame because these guys all know each other, but almost kind of like some pregame alliances going on here, because he lives with Eric, which I had no idea. So that was a surprise. And he still seems pretty good with most everyone else, which again is shocking considering all these people have seen him play the game. So I'm surprised nobody took a stand against him and just got him out. Like, let's not deal with his shit. Let's just get him out now.
Yeah, I think that's something that. Something that I not that I was surprised to see so much of Chris LeCompte, because he's such a big character. I didn't expect him to be making every single decision right away. It seems like everyone has the same mindset, like either I don't want to take a shot at him too early, or let's just let him be the leader because he'll always be the biggest target. And it seemed like if they would all just talk to each other and be like, oh yeah, we're all on the same page, this guy's dangerous, they could have gotten him out right away, but no one really took charge with that. And I think the interesting thing with Evan is, obviously Chris LeCompte makes the call, all right, we're flipping it, it's going to be Alex. Obviously that takes out one of Evan's options in Alex, and I was surprised to see Evan and Alex being on such good terms, but it also gives Evan a chance to maybe hide behind Lecomte as a shield for a bit and just plow him through the game, at least for the pre-merge, before he really gets dangerous. And it's important for Evan to make sure that Chris doesn't get his feet under him and take charge of the merge, which we've seen him do, obviously, in Outback.
Yeah, I mean,
I already talked.
Yeah, you're good. So I really think that in this kind of a move, like, Evan was definitely cornered. I don't think Evan necessarily made a very bad decision this week, especially when the entire tribe was definitely under Chris's spell at that point. No one wants to be the first person out, and no one wants to be the first person out of All Stars even more. Like, they are, every single one of these players is definitely here to play. So I think in the case of Evan, this is definitely more of a minor setback in a longer game, where I still don't think Chris will last that long in the game. I think at max he has another 2-3 tribals that he'll be able to last, and that's assuming tribes stay the same for those tribal councils. But I think Evan is definitely, in cutting Alex, thinking of his long-term game where he showed Chris, hey, you can still trust me. I don't think Chris would cut Evan at this point. I still think that people like Ryan and Brandon would fall first in that line beforehand, because I think Chris has his hands in everyone's pots, that the best move for him would be to not piss as many people off as possible and to try to keep as many troops as possible. Because the second any sort of swap happens, the second any of the people on the other tribe are with him, he's going to have a major target on his back, even bigger than he definitely already does. So I think he really just needs to calm down, first of all. Like he just needs to take 3 seconds, decide on a target, and stop switching every 30 seconds. Just take 2 seconds to breathe here, buddy.
Well, that's what he said. He's like, okay, I think I can play a low-key game. 5 minutes later, you have a confessional where he's like, no, that's not going to work. I don't know why he couldn't stick with that. It seemed like the decision came from it being all guys, but I feel like he still could have kind of gone that angle of playing it down a little bit, because he came out so fast, just like he.
There's so many egos on that tribe, at least from what I'm able to see, that he would have been able, in my opinion, to play more under the radar if he had waited longer than 5 minutes. Evan was the first one to throw out a name. He was the first one to throw it out. Brandon was already out on the field. Chris could have sat back and been like, you know what? It's not me the first time. Brandon's already on the outs. Let's just let it happen. Maybe we'll win the next challenge, because we only lost by like 1/1000th of a second. And only if Micah, the master of dominoes, was just a second. That was amazing. Because, hey, props to Micah. That was insane that he just basically dove and hit it when he saw Victoria going to do it.
Yeah, we were just talking about the Lecomte being so wishy-washy, from saying 5 minutes in, I'm gonna play low key, and then immediately going nuts. I think Eric kind of had a moment like that too in the episode, and I think Eric is our maybe getting. I hate to keep saying set up because it's not as over edited as the CBS show, which I enjoy, but we're getting set up for Eric to get some he got some dodo music in the episode. He's like whipping the thing, and Rebecca's going to run it. But there was literally a moment where Eric did all that stuff, ran and tell everybody about it, threw it, and then he's in a confessional. He's like, yeah, I was trying to downplay it. I was just trying to downplay the fact that it's like, you did not downplay shit. You didn't downplay anything. Like, you were nuts. It's that alliance that's kind of getting set up of Chris Lecomte and Eric and Evans in there, and maybe Schubel as that swing vote later on. That's just a group full of people who are going to overplay in the next 3 episodes and have to make up for it in the later game if they even get there. It's going to be really interesting.
It's funny. I've actually seen this a lot, the comments about the Eric move, and I actually read it a totally different way at the time. I thought he was saying he tried to downplay it as in oh, it's not a big deal. I'm going to tell everybody. I just had this whatever. I'm not scheming or anything. So that was actually how I read it. But I think it's funny to see how everybody has reacted to that also. I had, Jack, a question for you in terms of, we talked about Lecomte, we've talked about Evan somewhat, now Eric a bit. Anybody else on the guys tribe that kind of stood out to you in the way they were playing or positioning themselves? Good or bad?
Definitely Alex G, because he definitely had a very strong edit in the premiere.
And he named the episode. And then he named the episode.
There can be only one.
But I guess Jordan Schubel would be the only other guy that's really stood out to me as a game player.
I'd say he's the MVP of the episode.
Oh yeah.
I think Chris Thomas.
Oh, Chris Thomas too. Yeah,
Chris
that's
Thomas
a huge one. I don't know how he's
Yeah.
flying under the radar already. I don't.
But you know what? When he starts off by being like, "No, I'm clearly a hero," like you know he's not flying under the radar, and then he had another moment like Eric where he's like, well, I know I have to like tone it down and not talk that much with the people who I already know don't like me." And then he spent the whole first 5-10 minutes of the game like making a big scene about how he's a hero. Like these guys, and specifically the guys, are constantly like doubting themselves or going wishy-washy every 5 minutes. It's amazing to watch.
I do kind of want to bounce back for a second to Jordan, because someone mentioned that he'd be like the MVP of the episode, which I think should definitely be highlighted for a second. I think out of all the guys, he definitely had the strongest social game. I don't think anyone said one negative thing about him, unless if you include the, like we just don't know him kind of attitude, which I think he was able to change so quickly. The one person who did have a possible negative thing about Jordan was Alex, and Alex is now out of the game because of the whole, I don't really know anything about season 1 in the first place. Sorry. But yeah, like with Alex gone, that's like the only person with like the one negative attribute towards Jordan. And Jordan, I think, formed really strong bonds with Evan, really strong bonds with Chris, Eric, and I'm assuming that he definitely was talking to other people on the tribe. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he's able to play throughout the game, because he's really the only question mark. And so far, his social game is strong as hell.
Also want to give a quick MVP shout out just for one move. Even though Eric got dodo music this episode, I really thought he did one thing really smart. Instead of deciding to give the girls' idol to a person and cause drama by doing that, he just threw it away and let them decide who gets it.
Yeah, but also someone suggested doing that. I don't know who specifically said it on the guy's side, but they were like, "Oh, just throw it." And he was like, "Oh,
do the bridal shower thing." And
Yeah.
Well, no, it was smart.
Yeah,
I think it was fun.
He doesn't make someone mad. He doesn't make,
Fair enough, yeah.
I think it's a good move in terms of on paper I'm not going to make anyone mad. There's a cuter way to do it than just being like, well, fuck it, and like whip it across the thing. Like you should be like, okay, like how about we like draw sticks or rocks or something. Like there's a cuter way to go about it, but I think it was like a smart enough move.
All right. Well, I think that's a good starting point for the guys' tribe. So let's go on. We got to see a pretty good amount of dynamics from the girls' tribe and some of the relationships that are forming there. We touched on the bathroom stuff earlier a little bit, but I don't know. Cam, we'll start with you. Girls' tribe, initial impressions. Who stood out to you in a good or bad way?
Love to see Victoria back, although I don't know how long that bathroom alliance holds, but she's on the wrong side of that. I was actually surprised. Holly seemed very upset about the bathroom thing, and I thought that was, kind of petty at the point, but then it seemed like, a lot of stuff happened in there, and they, made some bonds that maybe they got left out of. Siona and Ashley do not like each other still. That was very apparent. And I think that'll be fun to watch. And one person that really stood out to me was Nicole. I think she, in her opening confessional, assessed very well what she did wrong last time and seemed keen on changing that. And I know a lot of people were, but she seemed to be putting in the effort to do that and seemed to be connecting with the right people, seems to have a good relationship with people that I know there's a couple years in between this, but last time we saw Nicole and Ryan, they were not on the best terms. They seem to be better now. So I think she, even though she, had a lot of issues with her game last time, she was one of the people that stood out to me. And let's not forget, she's the only person who made it to the final tribal. So she's got a lot of experience in the game. I think she is definitely someone that stood out. I liked Holly. I liked Shannon. I think a lot of people are doing well. And I was waiting for the Becca, I'm gonna eat this rock confessional, but she got close. She got the necklace, so she didn't have to. That was fun.
Speaking about Becca getting the necklace, she took off like.
Oh yeah, she was ready for it.
I screamed at my television.
Yeah, it was so good. Like, not me.
That shows to me like good situational awareness. She's plugged in. She is ready to go.
She just didn't want to be first boot again, and like I was just really.
Yeah, I was gonna say to me, it's like a little bit of fear. Actually, she's just like, "Oh fuck, I'm going. Like I'm moving. Like I'm going right now."
Life is fear. So.
Yeah, that's true. But can't. It was mentioned Shannon. I thought Shannon probably got the most glowing premiere of anybody. We saw a bunch of different people talk about how they like Shannon, how they want to work with Shannon, how they see Shannon as trustworthy, which is exactly what Shannon was saying in the pre-game in her bios, and in her confessionals, saying that's exactly what I want to happen. I don't think we really got any negative content from Shannon outside of if you see her overreacting to what was going on with Chris LeCompte. But even then, she found a way to turn that into a bond, and now maybe she's going to work with Holly. I think she had. I actually underestimated her going into the season based on what we said we just saw in the premiere.
But going into the season, Shannon was my winner pick. So that
right.
The premiere was really good for her and like setting up the fact that she's likable, people want to work with her, and like the whole Chris, Holly, Eric potential alliance with the pairs happening. So I think that was a really good episode for Shannon and how she'll progress further.
Yeah, and that's like a really important part of the pre-merge is really setting up those bonds that I think Shannon did an excellent job of doing with basically everybody on her tribe. Everyone said, "Oh, Shannon, I'll definitely work with Shannon. Shannon's the best." Woo. I mean, they could rename the tribe Shannon if they wanted to. They probably all would. I think another person worth mentioning, at least in my mind, Michelle really stood out to me. I've rewatched Guts and Glory, and I think both times Michelle is someone that I kind of saw as a Kelly Wentworth type person, someone that I think was just kind of cut short in my opinion. I don't think she really got the opportunity to glow that I think she would have, and I'm very glad she has this chance to do so because she has a really good perception of what's going on. She's the one that narrated the whole argument or whatever that was that the girls had at wherever they ate. Someone's gonna have to re-explain it to me because it all happened so quickly to me. I'm like, I can't.
Bubble tea gate.
It's a not safe for work joke that Sienna made. So.
One of many during the episode.
Honestly, everyone in that tribe is just such a character, and I think Michelle has such a good grasp on what's going on. I'm really interested to see how she progresses this season. I do think a lot of this episode is setting up who are the ones that are progressing, who's going to crash and burn. Like if I were to say right now, I'm like Chris LeCompte and Eric probably crash and burn. People like Michelle, Shannon, and Jordan probably going to be here for a while.
Can I throw a quick question out to the group as a topic on the women's tribe? Is anyone giving Siona more than like a 1% chance of winning at this point? Like, she's a fantastic character. She's really interesting. I want her to be there to the very end. I don't think she has a survivor bone in her body in terms of like she's offended like 90% of the cast already. She pissed off the entire guys tribe by her tribe advanced to the next part of the challenge and she stayed behind, which like fine, that's good challenge strategy, but she pissed off Pascal, who's gone now obviously. But she made everybody mad with that. Not to mention she's making Ashley mad, and that probably means Rebecca's not going to like her. Like it seems like she's already limited her options down to about like 5 or 6 people in the entire game already.
You know what?
Like, does anybody see her winning at all?
I don't see her winning. I'll give her a 2% chance. I'll kind of double what you said. Underestimating her by about 1%. Because there's always that kind of double-edged thought on people who really rub people the wrong way, kind of like an Abby Maria, where they can be taken very far in the game.
Twice.
It is still early. There is still a lot of time. I don't think this will ever happen. Please don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, hey, what if? Like, she could still potentially turn stuff around because she has a good perception of who she wants to work with. She just happened to also piss off most of the people who she said she wanted to work with.
Yeah. I think she's one thing going in her favor. It's that she's very blunt and honest, and everyone on the cast knows that. So in a sense, you know she's not going to bullshit you. You know she's not going to lie to you. So if she were possibly, it's probably not going to happen at the end with 2 people who everyone else was betrayed by. They may appreciate the fact, like, well, you always told us the truth, Siona. We always knew where we stood with you, and they could appreciate that.
Yeah, you always know what you're getting. I think it was during the board part of the challenge where they were trying to balance, and she was like talking smack, and someone was like, it might have been LeCompte, was like, oh, she's gonna do that, just let her do it and ignore her. So people know what to get from her, but they're still turned off by it. So it's something to keep an eye on.
I think there's room for development in Siona's character arc because this is the first time in Survivor Maryland history that she hasn't been on a tribe with Ryan.
Yeah.
And considering the fact that she made a confessional, how she was complaining about that because she really wanted to play with him, I think this could be a really good chance for her to develop as an individual. And maybe that will turn into a great Survivor player. Average, maybe, at best, but at least decently better than before.
A great character. She's already like coach levels of like great characters. She just needs to pick up that like South Pacific level of actually being able to play the game, and then I'll be impressed. I just wasn't impressed in the premiere.
So are you saying she's going to religiously manipulate everyone into doing what she wants her to do?
Okay. Well, then who's the and naturally, I think Eric's the Brandon Hance of the season, maybe. Although you might have another opinion on that.
Fiona's all about honor, integrity, and fuck you, Austin.
She was talking smack. She was talking smack already.
That's okay. I appreciate that. I like that she laughed in my first opening speech, but I vividly remember that. All right. Any other thoughts you guys have on the girls' tribe going into things?
I got one more.
Yeah.
I actually thought Sabrina did pretty well this episode.
Oh yeah.
For whatever reason, 3 of the 4 season 3 girls were all left there, and Sabrina was the only one who ended up going with that bathroom group. I think that has to say something.
Yeah.
She's clearly got a decent. She's probably got the best social game of the 4. I think that's definitely working in her favor here. Also, I loved how when everyone scattered to look pretty idle, she's literally just walking, not caring.
I completely agree with what you're saying. Yeah, totally agree with what you're saying.
I was also impressed.
You can go ahead.
No, go ahead, Joe.
I like we all know how she can't run. She's not a physical player whatsoever. And you did bring up a great point. She was able to, at least in season 3, last a while being probably one of the physically weakest players in Survivor Maryland history. So when you're someone like that, although she does claim she's gone to the gym since then, she has to kind of
she
be able to compensate for that. Oh, she tries. Okay. Well,
she tried to go to the gym. She gave up apparently. But no, I was actually impressed that she managed to in a challenge where 80% of the players had to run, she managed to not have to run. That shows some amount of planning capability in advance. She knew this is clearly a running challenge. I will eat the chicken, which is perfect. That would be me as well. So I relate. I relate on a deep level with that impulse.
Yeah, Sabrina, I will say, I think maybe it'll be in a secret scene or something. I just couldn't fit it in, but she had a confessional about how I think something that we really see as a difference in the All Stars cast versus a Terrapin Trials cast. Terrapin Trials was a lot of freshmen. It was a little bit more heavy on the honor student side, and there's this just a totally different social game. I think you can feel from the All Stars cast, it's very highly social, very just people who are very extroverted. And I think that's probably something that hurt Alex Pascal, and just, he could have been out first in Guts and Glory if things had turned out differently. But adapting to that, he even said himself, adapting to that really fast social game is tough. I think that probably is something. I just remember Sabrina having a really good confessional about that. All right, so I think we've covered the 2 tribes. And somebody, I think, echoing with me. I'm guessing since it's probably Jordan says you don't have headphones, which is fine. But if you
is it?
It's fine. I won't talk too much, so don't worry about it. But let's just go to. I guess we've covered on these a little bit, but maybe just everyone focus on one person that you think, one person who surpassed or surprised you based on your expectations going in a good way, and one person in a bad way, and just you can briefly touch on that. And we'll start with Jordan and just go right to left. So Jacob second.
Okay, so one person good and one person bad. I would say one person good. The person I really liked today was Schubel, for all the reasons we listed earlier. He probably had the biggest, besides LeCompte, one of the bigger holes to work out of, being the only one from the season. He probably didn't know these guys as well, and yet he was able to integrate himself in that guys group, probably the best out of everyone. Everyone wanted to work with him, and I was pretty surprised. I figured people would be extremely cautious about him because we don't know that much about him. And my negative one would probably be LeCompte, only for overplaying. I feel like if he had stayed on one target the entire time, he would have had a great episode. But the fact that he openly flip-flopped between multiple targets and people know about it, it's going to hurt him down the line.
Yeah, I think those are two solid ones. I was going to say that I do have, there were some confessionals of people saying like, oh man, and good that Schubel got the immunity pendant because he could have been a target right away. I think people were definitely had at least noticed that he was the only one from his season, right? So I think good for him to get that and save himself and then use it. All right, Jacob, what about you?
Yeah, so you actually just said the two that I was going to choose, so I'll go with my second best and second.
Sorry.
I don't really want to say worst, but like not as strong as I thought they would be. Second, I would throw to Shannon. Of course, we all listed out a bunch of the reasons why we thought she was playing such a strong game. She seems, as of right now, to be in the center of all the information for the women's tribe right now, which is the position you really want to be in a tribe that really hasn't gone to a vote. Because honestly, I think that they have the capability to win at least the next couple. That I just have that vibe from them. I think that they're strong. So if Shannon is able to keep all these bonds with everyone else without really pissing them off, I think she has so many options going into any possible merge situation. On the other end, I'm gonna bring someone up that I feel hasn't been talked about a lot. And I'm only bringing her up because she was my preseason pick and I wanted her to do a lot more, and I'm kind of upset about it and maybe just kind of bitter. I'm going to go with Holly for this one. I just feel that everything she said confessional-wise, at least, and when she wasn't in confessional, was very emotional and very, like, at least emotionally driven towards how, she's excluded from the whole bathroom thing. When she met with Chris, she was really, really panicky, clearly in front of him, about the whole idea of Shannon knowing about the pairs. I think that she really I think she definitely got really excited about the whole All-Stars thing. I bet all of them are. And she definitely just like dove right in. And I think she's right now, at least from what I saw, is letting her emotions kind of drive her, which I think was just an overall theme for season 3 anyway. But like, I think she needs to, I want to see a little bit more of her. I think it's a mixture of not really seeing any great plays out of her, or any maneuvers to try to like put herself in a good position, and things that I think will eventually catch up with her.
Okay. All right, Jack.
My pick for who like impressed me or like whatever is probably Victoria, because I pegged her as the first boot. I just really, adaptability is the name of the game, and like from like the preview to like the first 8 minutes where she was like, I don't want to work with him, like I'll never reach out to him, like, and I was just like, this kind of like negative attitude I felt like was really going to affect her. And like even with the whole bathroom thing, if they lost, I feel like Victoria could have been a really easy target, but she stacked those dominoes and she proved me wrong, so good on her for doing that. Probably who impressed me the least, this may be personal bias, Austin will probably know this, but it's Brandon. He's just so uninteresting as a character, and like he the moment he got put on a tribe with men, he was like, I'm over it. Like he didn't know how to fit in with all like the toxic masculinity, and like I don't even think he made an attempt to try. He was literally just sitting there like looking at everyone, and I was like, just try. But he survived the vote, so like that's also pretty good too.
He did a better job than Alex Pascal, put it that way.
Unfortunately.
I think the thing that's probably unexpected is that Alex Pascal wasn't really taken out for being this huge threat. I mean, people were aware a bit of his season, but it's totally different playing in the world of before Guts and Glory versus after Guts and Glory. Because I don't even think the people in Guts and Glory totally knew the level of popularity that Alex would get from a season. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting, but that was totally random. So all right, Curtis, how about you?
This is about to be really awkward. I was gonna go with my pick of who surprised me most was gonna be Brandon, and he wasn't in there a lot. But I think it's similar to why Jack picked Victoria, is because I didn't have Brandon making it past the first episode really, but I think he at least showed self-awareness, which is more than I can say for like 75% of. I was going to say of men, but maybe 75% of men. But he showed at least self-awareness, knowing I don't fit in with this group. He's the only racialized person in the group for one. Doesn't play an impact. He's clearly not fitting in with the super masculine side of a lot of these players. When you have like Chris Lecomte, who's I don't even know if Bottle for one, but Chris Lecomte, who's this like very like hyperactive like macho kind of, and Chris Thomas is the same. I don't know if he did a good job of fitting in, but he clearly did enough that the target shifted off of him when it had previously been on him. So that at least to me, whether that was his play or not, was impressive in a way. My pick for the negative would probably be Alex G, just because I thought, given how much hype we had gotten in the preseason from you, Austin, about how hard he wanted to come play, I was surprised that he didn't come hard and come play. Perhaps a good move, because when Chris Lecomp's going crazy, stand back. But I just thought we'd see a confessional that wasn't from a prior season. Like, the only confessional I think we got from him the whole episode was the one from the previous season where he's bashing Sabrina for not going to the gym. I think that's all we saw. Like, I wanted to see more of him. So those would be my picks.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know if I hyped him up as saying, it wasn't like he
no.
was.
No. That was a misspeak. But
He just wanted to play really bad. That was the thing.
Yeah.
You didn't hype up his game. You just said he wanted to play. He said he wanted to play. So I expected him to really come out swinging, and he didn't.
Okay, fair. Cam, what about you?
Yeah. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier. The person that impressed me the most, I think, was Chris Thomas. You had a lot of people being like, "Oh, he's an asshole. He's gonna be, he's gonna be that way." But then there was that conversation. I think it was at the bubble tea place. All the girls were like, "Okay, he's not actually a bad person. Like, he's a nice guy when you get down to it." And then there was that scene with Michelle, which I thought was really big, where they seemed to hit it off really well. And I think just overall, he seemed very conscious about what was going on. I mean, he incorrectly identified that Siona was his partner, but he was paying attention to their reactions, which I think was interesting. He seems, the hero thing, I think he mostly was just messing around, but he seems to be actively trying to change people's perceptions of him as this jerk guy. And I think his social game seemed to be, kicked up to the next level. We'll see what happens next week. It looks like, who knows if, one Alex gets taken out, maybe another Chris gets taken out next week. They seem to be butting heads. We'll see if that keeps going. But I was impressed with him. Person that impressed me the least, it might be a cop-out, but I'm going to go with Alex Pascal. Because, after the first confessional, I thought we were set up for, a Spencer Bledsoe Cambodia arc where he goes to the end. I mean, obviously he didn't end up getting votes, but where he's, working on changing the perceptions and being more emotional and in tune with people. And then it seemed like, Eric pointed out that he wasn't talking a lot and was a little shy. So I thought he would be more in tune with the game. And it seemed like in Guts and Glory, he didn't know the game very well, was kind of learning it as he went along. So I thought coming into this season, he would be, ready to go. But it seemed like he just, wasn't on top of anything. And there was that scene with Michelle where he wasn't answering her calls. So,
what was up with that, Austin? Can you tell us why Pascal was ignoring Ashley or stood her up?
Oh, Ashley, yes.
I think he just slept through it. Like, I think that's what I ended up hearing after.
You got to be on at all times.
Yeah. Well, I think, and just to get some insight into Pascal, I think that he evaluated a lot of what he needed to improve from his season accurately, and he said that, but I just don't think he was ready to apply it, and I don't think he understood without having seen a season, and he's talked to me about this since. He just didn't get like how dire it was, like how much of his social game from the early game he really did have to improve. And so I think maybe if he had that information going in, he might have done better. I think he probably would have, but he just wasn't ready for the speed of the game, and he never had to go to tribal early, and he never learned.
Yeah, I mean, he went to tribal. I think it was episode 7 was the first time when Michelle was blindsided. So yeah.
He didn't even seem upset tonight when he got voted out, though, Austin. No. Like you might be able to shine more light on that there, but was that part of him? Like he seemed like he was bummed about it, but he was like, that's how it is sometimes. Like I kind of expected the first boot to cry. I'm going to be honest. I thought we were getting the Marissa treatment with no matter who the first boot was. And maybe once it was Pascal, I didn't think that much, but he seems just kind of like shrug his shoulders, move on with his life kind of thing.
If you rewatch, I thought his eyes were a little red.
Okay, I'll have to take another look. Yeah,
take another look. Did some forensic examinations.
Yeah, one thing he pointed out in his opening confessional and in the last one was, as you go more and more into the game, you get more invested in it. So he just didn't have time to get invested in it. I think it was probably tougher to get voted out in 4th place rather than 1st when he was like, okay, I wasn't even here that long anyway. So I think that's maybe why he wasn't as affected by it.
Yeah, I had some concern because actually I talked to him like late in the summer, and he was like, "I'm excited, but it hasn't really like clicked for me." Like other people were, foaming at the mouth to get back in it. I think that it hadn't totally clicked for him yet, and everybody kind of needs that in Survivor Maryland. You need like it's usually the first day for people, but sometimes for it to really, set foot for them. And then he thought he was in a majority alliance, and I think he just, kind of fell asleep a little bit.
Literally,
seems like a pretty chill dude, like in general.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, he is. I mean, I think that doesn't help in such a high, fast-paced game. So I think we've covered a lot of the people who have been strong and weak. Let's talk about something we haven't talked about much yet, a pretty big storyline for episode 1, which is the partner twist. And what you guys think of that now that you've seen it. I know my explanation was a little bit convoluted, but I think it hopefully makes some sense. And I think it'll make a lot more sense as we keep going in. But we were introduced to that, saw the pairs come together. So I'll let you guys decide who wants to go first, but let's talk about that a bit.
Why don't we go by pair? Like, let's go for each pair and talk about it.
That works.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
first.
Even does anybody have a pair that they feel very passionate about in terms of? I mean, we can talk about the twist first before we even talk about the pairs. But is there any pair that people were like psyched to see outside of the obvious like Crowder Senti type things?
I think Holly and Chris is a big one.
Yeah. I mean, just mainly because of Victoria's obvious reaction of just like, no, not happening, not talking at all. Screw this twist, screw all of you. So then I think the best move for Victoria. Victoria's not gonna, and I think this basically just starts our order if we're gonna go in order of all the pairs because she went first. Her if she, at least in my opinion, doesn't want to talk to Chris at all, which I get. Like I don't think she should immediately be targeting him. But if her plan now is to not go with this partner twist at all and to not let Chris Thomas go that far, then her best strategy at this point is to make sure that no other pairs get that far. Because if she's stuck in this situation where she gets down to those 9 people and there's a pair left in that game, that could hurt her even further in the game. So I think she does have to adjust if she's going from, if she really doesn't want to talk to Chris, then she has to angle her strategy a little bit. I don't think she should focus on it, but she should have in the back of her mind, pairs can't get far.
I think she should.
Yeah, go Jordan.
What were you saying?
Yeah, I was just like to me, I think it's a big mistake to not connect with your partner. Like I don't regardless of who it is, it's such a strong amount of power. If you were able to connect with them and do it effectively. I actually think that maybe the only person I excuse on this would be Victoria, because you just don't know how Chris Thomas is going to come into the game. It's easy to predict how a Lecomte is going to come into the game, or even like Micah, like a quiet guy, is going to come into the game. But it's really hard to be like, Chris Thomas, how's he going to act? Because sometimes he's an asshole, and sometimes he can have like an hour-long deep conversation with Michelle. So maybe I excuse that, but it seems like something that you should at least be hinting at it to them so that they try to keep your ass safe if they hear anything wrong. Like, it's just another person who has a concrete in-game reason to protect you, which doesn't happen in Survivor very often. And not taking advantage of that, I think, might come out to be a mistake for her or anyone who does it.
Especially if like all the pairs like get leaked at some point, like they can't, there's no way they could be kept a secret for so long. So once Chris Thomas figures out that Victoria is like his pair, but she never told him, he could be like mad at her for that. So like there's so many different variables going on with it that like I don't really know if her decision not to tell him was the best one.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I also think if we're in this kind of season where only Terrapin Trials and Outback have aired, then really the big targets are on people like Chris Thomas and Victoria, who are 2 of the main icons of their seasons. So it's kind of like when Tony and Sandra played together. It's kind of like okay, if we take each other out, the other one becomes a very obvious target. So theoretically, like there's that double, like, hey, we can get immunity. We're both in the game, and no one's like that huge, big threat still in the game.
Yeah, we said we were going to go pair by pair. So I think the next one in the line was Siona picking Evan. Is anybody particularly passionate about? That's a weird combo.
I think it sucks for Evan more because Siona's just such a wild card. Like Evan's gonna have to find some way to work with her, and he's like the total opposite of Siona.
Mm-hmm.
Very calm and collected.
And he really wanted to vote out Crowder this episode. Like, if that ever gets back to Siona, like there's an immediate problem here where it's like, we're partners, but you did want to vote out my basically only good friend in the game, like right off the bat. Like, this is going to be an issue.
I am really interested to see this relationship, I think, more than a lot of the others, just because they're both really huge characters. They may not be like the number one threats of the game, kind of like what Victoria and Chris were, but they're like two just big open characters that I think at least the fan base is really interested in seeing. So it's kind of like when those two celebrities that you guys know somehow just start dating all of a sudden, and you're just really curious to see how it's going to, at some point, definitely explode.
I'm gonna be right back. You guys keep talking through the pairs. You got it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
If does anybody else have anything on that, or we can move on to Shannon and Eric, which is like, it has to be the most beast mode pairing in this group, right? Like the most athletically competitive by a country mile, maybe.
They're and especially considering that Shannon and LeCompte are apparently BFS, and Eric lives with LeCompte, so you have a huge possible cross-tribal alliance being built there.
And I honestly think that might end up being a result of this twist, is a major cross-tribal alliance, especially if, at least for the moment, Chris LeCompte and Eric have control, at least for the moment, of their tribe. Shannon seems to be positioned really well on her tribe. Basically, the people that are in charge of the game also now have this ability to gain immunity if they get far enough in the game. It is, I think, if you're Shannon right now, your cards are set so well. But the worst part about like having your cards all set up so well is that you have such a high chance of the misplaying just out of cockiness.
Yeah, there's a world where this turns into, we already have our kind of set. I was taking notes, and I have like 5 alliances that Chris L is in a row, but this could turn into a situation where you've got Chris L, you got LeCompte and Eric and Shannon and Holly. If Shannon and Holly can kind of mend whatever issue was there in the hallway. But you also have this role where that happens, and then Shanna pulls in Micah and Evan, and then Shubal joins as a swing vote, and suddenly you've got like an 8-strong alliance of people who are all invested in this because it's either an alliance they've had in a previous season or a current partnership. And I don't even see how that's breakable. There would have to be a big change to really break it.
That is such a great alliance. You just made me start drooling. Oh my God.
That's like, to me, when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is like when we thought that Aubrey and Tony and Malcolm and Sandra were all going to be in an alliance. Like, this should be the whole season. Like,
it's still too soon. I still wish that would have happened.
Then it's suffered from the same problem that alliance did.
Tony,
in this case, our taunt is going to ruin it somehow.
Yeah. I mean, they're all going to be paranoid at some point. They're all going to start crawling around in the sand behind little boxes, spying on each other. It's going to happen.
Trying to dig holes in the.
Like you're going to see Crystal Club like popping up from like behind the couch at some point. They're like, what are you telling them, Shannon? What are you telling them? Like,
yeah, Austin, can you verify if they were allowed to dig holes with shovels on the campus at all? Because that could be a problem for Chris the Comp sometime in the future.
Yeah, totally legal. Did not rule it out. Maybe you'll see it.
Spy Shacks on Survivor Maryland. Let's go.
Feels like
we're getting a lot of bathroom drama, but
Chris Thomas would actively try to. He would sit. Phil's room was right next to mine in Maryland Outback, and he would just like hang out in Phil's room with nobody there and try to listen in. And I had to like chastise him a bunch of times.
You'd be like, Chris, you have to leave. You have to actually go.
Yeah, pretty much. I had to check.
Speaking of. One moment I liked was during the dominoes. I think Chris Thomas said Phil Apocalypse, which was basically a reference to Phil had like the same lead that the girls had in Maryland Outback with the dominoes, and he actually lost it. So that I thought that was funny.
Sierra almost blew it.
Yeah, and then Victoria stumped him.
Oh yeah, well, do you know what's so crazy about that? And we're kind of bouncing back the challenge off of our pairs, but we'll get back to Michelle and Brandon in a second, I guess, or move on to them. But I slowed down the video because I'm a huge nerd. I don't know if anybody else did this. When the 8-minute the the preview with the rivals and all that, and we saw the dominoes fall at the same time. I slowed that down to like 1/10 of a thing, and the boys' last domino hit before the girls. So did the girls win because of Victoria's like horizontal domino strategy at the end? Like, was more aerodynamic falling to the ground? Like, because the boys' last domino hit not the ground, but hit the last domino over. But then the girls hit the ground first. Like, that's like so close, it hurts.
Yeah, I think the horizontal, it fell like right off the edge, whereas the other one kind of like hit a little bit. And also, some of the guys at the we watched the other night were like, yeah, well, you know, the ground was like kind of slanted, and it might have been a little bit, but honestly, the girls got there first, so that's their. I mean, I didn't really expect to have to decide based on a ground ruling, but
when Victoria got in your face, it was like, what the fuck? I was like, this is the best Victoria moment of all time. Like, she was immediately furious about nothing. Like,
that was great. How long did that take to decide, Austin?
It was like a solid 10 minutes, and like one of the phones was dying, and so we had to charge it in, and then it was like a good 10 minutes at least.
Wow.
Oh,
it's crazy. All right, next, I have to go to bed. Not too soon, but fairly soon. So let's go through the next partner things. I have to go to Boston tomorrow.
Oh yeah. Oh, there we go. That's my place. So the next pair would be Michelle and Brandon, and honestly, this is where I thought Michelle shined the most in this episode. Because yes, Brandon is like one of the main reasons why she was voted out in Guts and Glory. But I think the biggest sign of growth, not only for her character, but like as a Survivor player, is she says she was willing to forget the last season and adapt from here on out. She knows the advantage that this twist can give her. And she also understands, yes, she voted her out last time, but this is a new game and it benefits Brandon just as much. He's on also another tribe with all guys that he's very open about like not really fitting in that well with. So at some point there will be some swaps. He will be working with some girls. And if Michelle is able to get this opportunity, I think Michelle and Brandon can actually become a very powerful duo in this game.
Yeah, I think Michelle's taking a really good approach to it. And I think it's mainly because her last season, she was immune for 6 out of 7 of her episodes. So she wants to come in and she wants to do damage. She doesn't want to sit back and like just watch like strike three go by. She just wants to make the most out of her second chance because like this is literally it for her. So I think she's doing a really good job with trying to do things with Brandon. So hopefully next episode or like a couple episodes in, we'll see her reach out to Brandon or whatever. Because we didn't see that.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Do y'all want to move on, or does anyone else have anything else on Michelle Brandon?
Good for me.
Good.
All right.
Next one's Senti Crowder, so that's a fun one.
Yeah.
The most exciting one, I feel like, because from the moment that Senti pulled out the paper, like I knew it was going to be one of the funniest pairs because Senti said that she was going to work with Ryan already, so I was like, all right, this is awesome. Like it gives Senti like kind of limits Senti's like grasp because she was going to work with Ryan and now she's like stuck with Ryan. And like telling him literally like 2 minutes after, like while they were searching for the pendants, I thought was like kind of smart. Like she was just like, yeah, I'm your partner. So I'm really excited to see how they work out.
I'm surprised we didn't see more of that, Austin. More people, maybe you just didn't get caught on camera or anything, but more people during right after they got their partners going up and being like, here's my, like, you're mine. Even if it's just like a quick like, hey, nudge, nudge, and then keep going. Like Sabrina was walking around doing nothing. She clearly could have like made it clear to Shubo. Like,
so I think everybody wanted to feel it out, kind of. And there's only one other case I heard of somebody trying to tell, which I'll tell that story in a second, because I didn't have the footage to really show in the episode. But I think everybody just kind of wanted to feel it out. I think there was actually a moment when the girls were at the bubble tea place where they were talking about, and I didn't have this on film either, but they were like, yeah, we're not going to tell any of our partners. Like that's what they all were saying initially, and we'll see how that goes. Obviously, some already have, but I think that's why you didn't see it right away. I don't think anybody wanted to kind of show their cards that quickly. Wanted to get a feel because they have the ability to wait on that information and see what the guys are like too, especially if they don't know them. So, but the only other story I have is somebody trying to tell is apparently, and I heard this from Sierra. Sierra said that she walked past Micah and whispered to him like, hey, it's me or something. And I had Micah in a confessional later and I said, so did you hear about your partner? Like expecting him to say yes. And he was like, no, I haven't heard anything. It's like, oh.
Micah's
So
the best.
we'll see what happens with that later on. But that was just something that happened that day that will never make the edit or anything. But I thought
Micah
it was
is so unassuming. I love it. He sneezed his way into an immunity, I had a clue, and then he doesn't even hear this like very key, important game information.
Yeah, I think
she must have
Micah's
whispered
allergies
so
might
quietly.
be-
I don't know.
Yeah, he's great.
I can only hope he breaks more exit signs this season. I want like 2 or 3 like shots of him trying to fix signs in the dorms.
He didn't
Like,
break that.
that was classic. That was one of my
Stop.
favorite moments of Guts and Glory.
And eating the cheese.
What was that?
Cheesecake.
The cheese.
Yeah.
That was great.
All
No
right.
chance
So
for that because Alex is gone now.
the what?
When
Oh,
the scene with
cheesecake.
Micah and Alex last season with the cheesecake, he's narrating the whole thing. I just thought it was funny.
Yeah, that was like coming to his own for me. So I guess
Yeah.
is there anything we want to say about Mike and Sierra while we're on the topic?
I mean,
It's a weird pair.
Not too much.
I'm curious to just see how they develop throughout the season because we didn't really get that much of either of them. Micah, at least in this episode, fell back into the role that I saw him in Guts and Glory of more of Evan's side, which I think Micah's amazing. We saw his domino mastery today. I think out of everyone's challenge performance skills, Micah definitely, in my mind, performed the best because of how quickly he just like got that down, almost beating Victoria. Had he had beaten Victoria in that second, I would have just, like everyone else, just quit the game. If someone else has got better domino skills than you in Survivor Maryland, you're done. But I think Sierra and Micah are people to watch. I don't know how much I expect from them because at least in both their previous seasons, they were people's side votes for most of the season. So I'm just curious. It's more of like a watch them because you don't know what could happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any reason for Sierra to not tell Micah. That's the one thing I'll say. Like, I think Micah, if I pulled Micah as my partner, I would be delighted. Like, if you know anything about Guts and Glory, even though they didn't get to see it, you know he's a patsy. He's going to be somebody's patsy. Likely Evans, but if you're his partner and you tell him, maybe yours. And he doesn't really come with a lot of negative impacts. He's not overplaying. He's not awkward socially or anything like that. Like, he's just a good average dude.
Yeah.
All she needs is a megaphone for him to hear, and then she'll be good.
Seriously. All right, what's the next one?
I think it's Rebecca and Alex G.
Which we didn't even get a reaction to. That's 2 of the more invisible people in the episode.
They're the ones that I kind of am just like. I mean, I'm proud of Rebecca for not being the first one out. That must have been terrifying for her. No one wants to pull a Francesca in any way, shape, or form. I don't really think that there's that much to cover for them other than that. Like, I think they should easily communicate. I think all these pairs should technically communicate. I think the only one that said that they weren't interested was Victoria. So it's going to be fascinating to see how the rest of them eventually tell their partners, assuming that they text them back within a 20-minute to hour span. But, you know.
So the ones left, I think we have Pascal and Ashley are not a thing anymore. We have Holly and Chris Lecomte. Is there anyone else that we're missing?
Yeah,
Sabrina and Shubal.
Sabrina and Shubal.
Sabrina said she's ready to work with him, so that's a big one.
I'm ready.
I think that's a great pairing for Sabrina. She could probably use someone like Shubal, who seems to have his head in the game more than she would, and she could probably lean on him pretty well for this.
100%. I think
Does
other than
Shubal like running?
I could imagine. I mean, who knows? But I think out of all the pairs, the 2 that are definitely the most likely to work together and dominate, at least at this point in the game, or the ones that I really hope do, are Shannon and Eric, and then Sabrina and Shubal. Am I pronouncing him right? I haven't called him Shubal once.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that they're both their strongest attributes, at least from what I've seen from Jordan and Shubal, and what I've seen from Sabrina, is their like social games. So I think that they're also like, if Sabrina tells him like, hey, I'm your partner, they're going to be socially smart enough to not make it obvious in any way, shape, or form. They can go make their own bonds, but they can talk to a decent amount to where they trust each other. I honestly think out of the pairs, they're the most likely to end up reaping the rewards of the possible advantages that they could get from being the last one standing.
Yeah, do
Yeah,
you
I
want
will
to run
say-
through and each give like our one without explanation? Like
I mean, yeah, do we
who
want to
would
talk about
say?
Holly and Chris and then do that, or
Oh yeah.
Holly and Chris. What do we think?
She wasn't happy.
Justifiably so. He's probably, probably may not make the merge. So it kind of sucks for her. She can get someone who has possible longevity in the game.
When she said that her and Chris have a history, is this like a Nicole Senti style with the jury history, Austin, or is this just like a old
how would you
friends
do
kind of
that?
like
Having a lot of
history?
that has nothing to do with
Oh, I definitely took it to mean that they had a Nicole Senti with the jury style history. That's what I assumed, but I wanted to check so I wasn't.
Don't think you're crazy.
Okay.
that's one of my
Good to
favorite parts
know.
of College Survivor is how much that actually impacts the game. It's impacted my show as well, and I just love it. I love it.
I will say that in terms of my favorite pairings, in the moment when I saw them being picked live, I laughed a lot at Victoria and Chris Thomas because I knew how she felt about him. Holly and Chris, I mean, if you actually listen back, you can hear me say, you're going to like this one to Holly. I don't know if you guys can hear that in the moment, but I knew it was coming. And then it's because it was the last one. And the third one that I really enjoyed was Shubal and Sabrina. I thought that they were just a fun like group mixing of personalities. So that's in the moment, just from my perspective, what I was really excited about. But we can see
for Holly and Chris, I'm just interested to see how the dynamic between them and then obviously Shannon and Eric plays out. Because what was weird was it seems obviously they have a history. They seem to still be on relatively good terms. She didn't seem pissed, but just like, oh, of course this happened. But seemed almost reluctant to come to him. But then once they started talking, I thought it was interesting. It seemed like Chris LeConte was being more upfront with her than he normally would be with most people. Like he was like, I don't know if I can lie to Shannon, which when has he ever had a problem lying to people? So I'm interested to see how that whole dynamic plays out. Yeah. And then he caved immediately. Like he told Shannon everything. So.
I expected better from him on that.
Yeah. He was
But
really, he
yeah,
wasn't selling it.
So.
Was not selling it at all.
All right. Any other big takeaways on the partner twist? I think we've covered them all pretty well. So
yeah,
I think we're good.
We're good.
Okay. Yeah. So I got a couple more questions. I just posted in the chat to open it up to any questions for me or for you guys, so people can start to trickle those in if they want. Otherwise, I think I just have a couple things left I want to ask. So going forward, next episode, let's plant your flags. What happens?
Oh, no.
Who goes home? We'll start with Cam.
Oof.
So we don't have to start with Cam if you're not ready.
No, I'll start. I'm gonna say I'll say for the guys and the girls who I think. For the girls, I think I don't know how much longevity that Siona Ashley rivalry has. It seems to me to be set, and I don't want to say setting up because that's edit speak, but it seems to be rolling into like a 2 or 3 episode arc where like one of them's out and then bang, it's over. So I could see that kind of unfolding. I don't know exactly who the sides would be, but I would say Siona or Ashley may be the ones to go next in the girls if they were to lose. For the guys, I don't think the Chris LeConte, Chris Thomas thing comes to a head yet. I think they might still have some ways to work together. I think Chris LeConte could go home next, but I don't think he will. If you had to gun to my head, I'd say maybe Brandon does, but I really don't know. The dynamics on that drive are really interesting to me because they were so, back and forth, and then it ended up being a unanimous vote. So I really don't know how it'll shake out.
Okay, Curtis.
Give me Ashley if it's the girls' tribe. I would say Siona, but she has like one of the most iconic confessionals in that first 8 minutes where she's talking about how she's interesting and no one else is interesting and Steve Sleesman isn't interesting.
Oh yeah, why on Steve?
I don't get it. I actually like Steve a lot, but
Right.
that's her own issue. She's never liked Steve apparently. And then if it's the guy's side, toss up between I think what was just being discussed. Brandon's an option. I could actually see Chris Thomas just completely blowing his game up and going. If I had to plant my flag in one, give me Chris Thomas. Let's watch him flame out. That would be a fun episode.
Okay. Jack.
Prediction: girls lose the challenge. One of the 3 Terrapin girls who didn't go to the bathroom will be voted out. And then the preview will show Feluke and Steve invading the season, and we're back at 20 people, and then we swap tribes. It's been my prediction for the past 2 years, and I'm sticking with it.
Feluke was robbed.
No,
Nice.
she wasn't.
Oh boy. Oh boy, can open up that can of worms.
Nope.
Jacob.
Terry's the greatest player in history.
Oh no! Oh no!
Oh, you're just opening up a can of worms in the comment section.
Hey,
Terry didn't
he had
even
a
want to
great
play All Stars. Like, that's
He had a great final time.
Hey, he won. I mean, if I was him, I'm winning and I'm walking away.
Yep.
That's fair. That is fair.
If I had to plant my flag, I do think it would be Ashley. If it's the girls, I'll hop on that train. I think Victoria and Holly, their names would be thrown out there. I think 100% if the girls lose. I think they're the ones that would be highly considered. But I think they'll be able to maneuver themselves out of that scenario, at least for that one vote, because I just think this will be the vote where everyone else's dirt from other seasons will come back in, at least for that one vote. And especially with one of the, when it's the first vote of the season for your tribe, it's mainly just the first 2 or 3 names that are out there become the options. And I think if it's the guys, I think Chris LeComp has one more week of control, definitely. I don't think it will extend past that. Because I think for the most part the guys want to work with him, at least for now. He's pissed off Evan a bit, but I don't think it's enough for Evan to avoid it, because Evan did say tonight, and I wrote this down, you can't go against Chris L this early in the game, which I think he'll stay with at least for one more. So I think the other names that were thrown out tonight, like a Ryan or a Brandon, will definitely be at risk again.
Okay. And finally, Jordan.
Okay, on the girls' side, I'm gonna stick with Victoria. I just don't see how she climbs out of this hole unless a swap happens or something. Sorry.
I don't like it.
I
love her.
On the guy side, I'm actually gonna go in a different direction here. I think LeComp stays in power for a few more rounds.
Agreed.
But I think he's gonna turn on Evan next round, and Evan goes home.
I don't see that happening.
I think LeComp's going to LeComp and take out one of the bigger players.
I'd be surprised, but I don't know if it would be based on him making a smart big move or him panicking, thinking Evan's turning against him, which he kind of is. But I could totally see it being a Chris LeComp panic move if it happens.
I just think it's inevitable that someone's going to suffer for not taking advantage of the fact they could have gotten them out this round.
It's
Someone's
inevitable.
Love it. Love the pun. All right, and the last question I have for you guys is, of course, and you can say the same person. This is your gut, it's whatever you really think in your heart, guts and glory. Who is your winner pick after episode 1 for the season? I'll give you guys 2 options.
I'm already ready. I've got one pick, and I'm ready to go on it.
Okay, go for it.
I'm going to go with Micah.
Okay.
And for one reason, well, actually 2 reasons. One, I have a feeling he has the potential to do well in this game, where there's a bunch of big egos. But secondly, there's a little editing thing I kind of saw when you were talking about players having the potential to grow, and the camera zoomed in on Micah. So maybe I'm reading too much into it.
Okay. That's your pick. Locked in.
That's. He stole my pick.
Preseason and episode 1 pick. Unbelievable.
Yeah, you've known my you've known my pick for a little bit now, Austin. My pick preseason was Micah, only by a slight edge. I think I had him at like 12 or 14% or something. If you're giving us 2 options, I'll stick with Micah and say that his like not that visible premiere with like 1 or 2 confessionals isn't a huge deal in Survivor Maryland. If I have to take another, she had such a glowing premiere. It feels weird not to take Shannon after what we saw there. I already had her pretty high to start. She looked really, really good in the premiere. So give me a If I could pick 3, I might actually just pick Sokotoa, honestly. But I'll go with Micah and Shannon.
Okay. Anybody who wants to go next?
Yeah, I'll go. For the guys, I had him preseason, and yeah, he had an okay premiere. Nothing really jumped out at me that made me think he might go home anytime soon. I'm gonna go with Evan. I think Evan's he's in a solid spot. I don't love the fact that he lost Alex, who's an option for him right away, but he seems to know what Chris LeCompte is up to, and probably isn't gonna, if anything goes the way of Chris LeCompte targeting Evan, I think Evan might have enough ammo to take him out himself. And then I'll pick a girl too, and I'm gonna go with Nicole Senti. And I think she had a good night, and I think she's got connections with probably maybe besides Chris LeCompte, although his might be a little looser connections. I think she has connections with probably most of the people in the cast, at least from playing with them and having relationships with them. And then someone that not a winner pick or anything, but we haven't talked about a lot, considering he was, almost went home. I think Ryan had a good night. I think he, I don't know how much the gears were turning in Chris LeCompte's head to flip it on Alex Pascal, but I don't know if Ryan reaching out might have stopped himself from going home.
I think the thing that saved him was him reaching out.
Yeah, I think he had a good night considering he almost went home. And I loved his first confessional was him being overconfident, just like he was in his first season, thinking that no one else was thinking about the game and everything. But I think he had a good night. And besides the slow chicken eating, I'm excited to see where he goes from here.
As much as I do want to jump on the Micah train, just because I just love him as a human being and as a character and as a domino liner upper. If I were to go with if I were to flip back and forth between 2 people, I would honestly either go with Nicole or Michelle. Michelle's kind of like my reach and my hope. I really want to see her. I want to see her Kelly Wentworth her way to the end +1 immunity win so she can actually win. Just based off of this edit, I think she's very capable of doing so. I think with what she was presented, I think she has a very smart game in mind. I think that the Brandon-Michelle duo will work out. I'm not a huge Brandon person either, but I do think that'd be just cool to see, like old enemies coming together and becoming allies. I think she has the potential. I think is what I'm trying to say. And then with Nicole, I do think Nicole's proved herself before. She just wasn't able to, kind of clench it together. Yeah, she wasn't able to articulate it and clench it at the very last minute, which I think is what a lot of people will assume she does again or will underestimate her for. They'll be like, all right, she got to the end, she lost, like, big deal. She's probably going to play that same exact game because it got her to the end. I think she's... Yeah, I mean, I think that she'll be able to improve upon her game, and I think this premiere, it was a good premiere for her because I think she has a good analysis on the rest of the cast. She isn't the main target, or any real target, even though she's the only player on this cast that actually reached the end.
Yeah, she got some really good stuff right at the start too. Like her pre, there was like 7 people. I'm gonna echo. There was like 7 people who got confessionals before the theme, and she was one of them. And hers was all based around her understanding she needs to articulate her game better. Her being like very clearly wants to be in this game, wants to win, which is more than you can say for a couple people. Like they're just a little less expressive about it, I suppose. And it just sets up this very powerful redemption arc that I would love to see, where she makes the finals and wins.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jack, close it off.
I was struggling to pick between 3 people, between Shannon, Michelle, and Senti, because I think Senti and Shannon having really strong confessionals in the opening really helps their chances. But I also think Michelle had a really solid episode, considering the fact that she really didn't have to be the main focus of the girls' tribe, but she was. So I'm kind of hoping that she sticks it out there. So maybe I'll just go with Shannon and Michelle.
Okay.
I'm surprised no one picked Schubel.
I think he's going to be robbed, guys. I hope it doesn't happen. I can see it happening. I think he'll do the same thing he did last time. He'll do a great job. He'll find his idols. He'll win his immunities, and he'll get cut last minute. He will be too big of a threat down the line, and people will notice.
Rob S. Schugel.
One thing interesting with him was the opening confessional where he's like, I'll have an idol in my hand before I get voted out. I thought that was foreshadowing for idol in the pocket. Might still be, but the payoff was pretty immediate because he found that first idol. So I'm interested to see if he finds some more and what he does with them.
All right. Well, it is 11 o'clock. That flew by. I want to thank you guys all again for coming on. I think you guys crushed it in recapping pretty much every aspect of the episode and giving some really good takes. And I had a blast doing it. And now I get to go back and read all the comments that have been blowing up my phone since then. So nice shout out message from Chrissy Hoffbeck. So tonight's a good night.
Wow.
Yeah, out of nowhere. I think from
the actual actuary.
The actual actuary.
I'll be out in like 5.
So just to wrap up again, thank you to everybody for watching this, for watching the premiere, for commenting and liking. As I've said a million times, it's really does mean a lot. It makes it really fun for me, and it especially keeps me going through the countless hours of editing. And it is really exciting and surreal and cool to finally have something out there for you guys to dissect. There was so much in that premiere. Again, I took a risk by putting it so long, but I think it seems like it paid off. And the episodes are just going to keep getting better as we keep going through the season. Starts off solid and hits a point pretty early on that it just gets a whole nother level. It's going to be fun.
Jeez,
so
spoilers.
Sweet.
Feluke is coming in.
And so it's going to be really fun to do. Really excited to talk to you guys. People have asked me if I'm going to do this every week. I don't know if I really have the time to, but when I can, or if it's worth it, I will. But keep going through the discussion on Twitter and all your forums and Reddit and everything. And thank you 5 again for coming on and talking to me. I really enjoyed getting to talk to you. And I know I will see at least Jacob in Boston, but I'll see you guys around somewhere. So yeah. All right. Well, thank you to everybody again for watching and staying with us. We had a solid 45, 50 people the whole time. So that was fun. And going to sign off for the night. So see you guys next week, next Monday for episode 2. Peace.
Peace.